Okay, good morning, everybody. Monday the 24th. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Good morning. Calling the roll for the Monday, January 24th meeting. It is 11:03. Nan Baker. Here. Dale Miller. Here. Trevor McAleer serving as an alternate for Purnell Jones.
Here.
Nicole English serving as an alternate for Mike Dever. Here. Mike Chambers serving as an alternate for Armin Budish.
Here.
Lee Tucker serving as an alternate for the fiscal officer.
Here.
Catherine Takacha.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. Next on our agenda is the review of the minutes. I will make a motion to approve the minutes from January 18th. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. Do we have any public comment?
No public comment.
No public comment. Let's move on to our first item, please.
First item, BC 2022-49, Department of Public Works, submitting an amendment to a contract with HDR Engineering Incorporated for design services for the rehabilitation of North Main Street Bridge number 00.12 over the Chagrin River in the village of Chagrin Falls, to expand the scope of services to develop the final design for the lining of an existing stone arch structure effective January 24th, 2022, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $277,973.
Nicole English with Public Works. So this is the final piece of our design contract, hopefully, to get us to a biddable project. The bridge is historic. If you've been out there, it's where the popcorn shop is right on the corner. It's been a bit of a challenge. We designed an option and put it out to bid. We got no bids, and nothing that could work. It was significantly over the 10%. And contractors essentially told us that they saw some challenges and as far as access and the working in the river. So we kind of went back to the drawing board, and we are going to finalize a new approach where we line the bridge instead. And so this is getting us to the end so that we can put it out to bid again.
Okay, thank you, Nicole. Are there questions from the board on this item?
Yes, what does it mean to line a bridge?
So our first part was almost pulling up every part of it and replacing. This is going to keep the arch structure in place, and then there's contractors, these different companies that they come up with these bridge liners, and essentially it's a preformed arch that goes underneath the bridge in order to hold it up, and then they'll fill it in on top. So that'll be the structural piece of it, and all the stones that you're going to see will really just kind of be for the looks. It won't be structural anymore.
And what's the total project cost?
The construction cost, I believe, is coming down because of this liner option instead of replacing all the stones. It's around $3 or $4 million. We, again, won't know until we get this final piece of design done for a final construction cost. We do have, there's federal funding on this project for the construction part.
And how much traffic uses this bridge?
I don't have that number right off the top of my head. It is in the middle of Chagrin Falls, so not just road traffic and cars. The pedestrian traffic is pretty high out here. This is where their park is. They have festivals out here, so that's probably equally as important. But I could get you a number on the traffic volume.
And what's the rating on the bridge?
I'm missing all sorts of info today for you. I'll get you both of those. It's on the same fact sheet. I'll send those to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any additional questions on this item? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. McAleer. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item?
Next item, BC 2022-50, Department of Public Works, submitting an agreement with the City of Seven Hills for revenue in the amount not to exceed $400,000 for maintenance and repair of storm and sanitary sewers located in County Sewer District Number 2 for the period January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2022.
Nicole English again with Public Works. This is our annual agreement with Seven Hills. They're on a direct bill with us, so if they call us out, we perform the sanitary work and then bill them back. They've selected $400,000 for their budget for this year, and this is for the entire calendar year of 2022. I did answer questions ahead of time. It's the same as last year and an increase from 2 years ago.
Okay, thank you again, Nicole. Questions from the board on this item? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
seconded by Ms. Lee Tucker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item?
Next item, BC 2022-51, Department of Public Works, recommending an award and enter into an agreement with the Board of Park Commissioners of the Cleveland Metropolitan Park District in the amount not to exceed $90,000 for funding assistance for the acquisition of replacement property, various parcels listed on the printed agenda, in the city of Garfield Heights, in compliance with Section 6F of the Land and Water Conservation Fund Act of 1965, in connection with the replacement of Hilliard Road Bridge Number 08.57 over Rocky River, Valley Parkway and Trail in the cities of Lakewood and Rocky River, commencing upon contract signature of all parties for a period of 2 years.
Nicole English with Public Works. So this is due to the project that we're doing on Hilliard Road Bridge. We're doing replacement of Hilliard Road Bridge. As part of that, the land underneath that we will need in order to construct the bridge is owned by the Metro Parks. They use land conservation funds to pay for some portion of their park years ago. So based on this act from 1965, if we are going to occupy for more than 6 months the land, we have to purchase them equal property somewhere else to give them as part of a park. So essentially this federal act says if you're going to use it more than 6 months, they take it as if you've bought it for good and you have to replace it in kind. So we've worked with the Metro Parks to identify this property in Garfield Heights that they were interested in, and paying sort of an equal share for the land that we're going to use as part of Hilliard Bridge for this. So that's what this payment is. This will come out of road and bridge funds. However, the construction of the overall project has a significant amount of federal funds and will likely have issue 1 once we submit for that.
Questions from the board on this item?
So just to understand, so 6 months is okay, and you expect that it's going to take longer than 6 months?
Right, so we're probably in about a 2-year construction period. So even though the land that we're going to use will go back to the park after our 2 years,
Right,
the law says if you use it more than 6 months, you have to buy.
okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So they get their property back after 2 years, plus they get the property in Garfield Heights forever.
Exactly,
Good deal for them.
right.
So I have a question. What happens if in 5 years we need to go back in there for another 6 months? Do we have to do the same thing?
Mhm.
We don't get like a grandfather clause?
Nope. Nope.
Boy, we'd be buying them half the Metro Parks. Okay. Understand. Mr. Mackler, please.
Nicole, can you talk a little bit about how the 6 or 7 parcels were selected? And then, are these privately owned right now, or who owns these parcels?
Yes, the Metro Park selected these, so we looked at with them, the first way that the feds want you to look at is something adjacent to the current park. Then if there isn't something adjacent, they can look, within the same Metro Park, so it kind of took a stepped approach. The Metro Parks had been looking at this land to add to their park, and I believe they're privately owned. They have an appraisal. We work through that its fair market value is what they're paying for it. And so it was really identified by them because they have to be a willing acceptor. So this is kind of a funny thing. Like, we have to buy them land, but they have to accept it. So they could keep telling us no, no, no if we are suggesting. So the idea was to work with them to find something they want that is kind of mutually beneficial, right? They've been looking for it, at it. They get a little bit of funds to go for it. And then we get our 6F requirement fulfilled.
Are these 8 parcels or so, are they owned by the same individual, do you know?
Yes, that is my understanding. I was trying to see if it's listed who the owner is. It's not listed, but yes, that's my understanding. I could get you a breakdown of who owns which piece.
Can you please?
What's the estimated cost?
The total cost is significantly more than 90. I thought it was in the 300,000s because we're going to pay Metro Park. So, they're going to go out and buy it, and then we reimburse them the piece that we are owing. So I'll get the full value of what all they're buying.
So we're capped at 90.
Correct. We
Yeah.
are capped at the 90 because that's what's equal to what
Right.
we're using based on appraisals.
We are capped at
90,000.
90,000.
Correct.
And that's because that's the value of the parcel or the property under the bridge that we will be using?
Correct.
That's how that number was calculated?
Yeah, based on acreage. And so we got an appraisal on our land that we need for the project. And then, they've appraised the lands that they're buying, but we've agreed to this 90,000 based on what we're using.
And for the Hilliard Road Bridge, replacement rate, we've got a ton of federal dollars for that too, right?
Correct.
Are
We
we
are,
not allowed to use federal dollars for the purchase of these parcels?
so the federal dollars are awarded for construction only right now. There's nothing in design. If we had design money, we could use that as part of this, but we only have construction. We have about 29 million secured right now, and we're looking to probably get another 6 or so from issue 1. So there could be an opportunity when we submit for issue 1 that we would put land costs in that and could get some of it reimbursed, but it'll be a pretty low percent, because again, 6 divided by 40 million or so, it's at the same percent rate.
Thanks.
So supposing we didn't have this unusual Metro Parks arrangement and we simply had to pay them for the value of using this property for 2 years, how much would the cost of that have been?
Significantly less, because this 90,000 is a total take. So the way they calculate it is based on what you're using it for. So it'd be, it's sort of a rental of 2 years of the full value, and so there's a calculation. So my guess would be, maybe it's 10,000 or so. If this was not in a park, if this was or even if it was in a park but was not 6F funds, because there are parks that don't have the 6F piece to it, we would be paying just for that temporary use.
The Metro Parks plan.
I believe part of a park is what they're looking at, yeah.
Are these next?
Correct, yeah,
Oh,
they're
oh,
attached to
oh,
a
they're-
current
oh, okay, I didn't
piece of the
realize.
Metro Parks,
Okay.
yep. Yeah, it has to be attached to some existing piece of the Metro Parks Park in order to fulfill this requirement.
Okay, any final questions on the item? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item, please.
Next item, BC 2022-52, Department of Public Works, recommending an award on a purchase order to RAR Contracting Company Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $475,000 for the purchase of washed limestone for the period January 24th, 2022 through January 23rd, 2025.
Good morning, Tom Pavage. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Good morning. This is requesting approval of a purchase order with RAR Contracting Company. It's for the sanitary division's washed limestone. It's as needed, a 3-year PO in the amount of $475,000. This was a formal bid that we worked with OPD on. It went to 12 vendors. We had 4 bids submitted, and we're going with the lowest bid that was submitted. And again, this is as needed limestone for our sanitary division they use with their construction projects and their projects as well.
Okay, Tom, thank you. Are there questions from the board on this item? Seeing no questions, I'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Macular. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item,
Thank you.
please.
Next item, BC 2022-53, Department of Public Works, recommending an award on requisition 7948 and enter into a contract with CRS Metalworks Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $228,908 for Soldiers and Sailors Monument HVAC alterations.
Good morning to the board. This is Matt Reimer with the Department of Public Works. This is an approved capital project to modify and modernize the HVAC system at the Soldiers and Sailors Monument located on Public Square. The project will replace existing steam utility capability with a new electric hot water boiler and new electric service. And this will modernize all the issues we've been having with HVAC at the monument. The bid came in at just $1,362 over the engineer's estimate. So right on the engineer's estimate, we had one bidder that bid on this project. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Matt. Questions from the board?
Yes, what is the rationale for changing from steam to electric?
Yes, to the councilman, the rationale is the steam line that is located in Public Square pre-existed the improvements in Public Square, and it is quite deep, and it has failed. And so this is a much better solution than trying to reestablish steam connectivity to the monument. It's also a relatively small structure, and it results in the same mode of delivering heat is just delivered, the steam is delivered by a boiler and circulated versus getting steam from a centralized source.
And how does the operating cost compare between steam and electric?
I'm not able to answer that question for you, Councilman. With apologies, we didn't conduct that analysis. This was more of a feasibility than having to tear up Public Square to repair this steam line and then the constant maintenance of that over time. But we did not look at the operation costs moving forward. We're just trying to solve the ability to get heat without it being interrupted.
And from an environmental perspective, is either preferred?
I missed the tail end of that question, sir.
From an environmental perspective, is there any preference for steam versus electric?
No preference because we don't have any source emissions in either case.
Okay, additional questions on the item? Mr. Mackler?
Matt, just to follow up from Councilman Miller's question, would it be possible to get an operations comparison sometime here soon, or is that something that you could provide?
Yes, we can certainly conduct that analysis and provide that.
Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Mackler. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item is approved. Next item, please.
Next item, BC 2022-54, Court of Common Pleas Juvenile Court Division, submitting an amendment to a contract with Ohio Guidestone for diversion case management services for the period February 1st, 2020 through January 31st, 2022, to extend the time period to June 30th, 2022, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $40,000.
Good morning, Tamika Ballard with Juvenile Court. I would like to request approval to amend our current diversion contract with Ohio Guidestone through through June 30th of 2022. The reason for this is Ohio Guidestone provides professional and technical services to conduct diversion case management services that include our assessments and individualized service plans and case management services for the youth. Also, the male and female are under 18 years of age at the time of the alleged offense, and they're also residents of Cuyahoga County. All the youth shall be diverted from the court involvement and shall actively receive diversion services. And these youth are the ones who have been diverted through the CDP programs or the court unruly programs. We are currently processing a new RFP for this contract, and we are requesting that we can amend the current one we have through June 30th of 2022.
Okay, thank you, Tamika. Are there questions from the board on this item? Councilwoman Baker.
So I questioned the additional 40,000, and I understand in your answer that we are approved for 90. So we're asking for the balance of what we didn't already receive. But realistically, if we hadn't used the 50 in the 2 years that we've been given this grant, what are your expectations that we will spend the 40 in the last 5 months?
What's great about this is the monies are able to roll over if they are not used. This is through our Reclaim Grant program, and we have a little leeway with the funding.
Was there a reason why we didn't ask for the full 90 to begin with?
I can't answer that at this time. I'm sorry. I don't know exactly why that wasn't asked for in the beginning. But what I do know is that we were just using the remainder of the funds, and whatever we don't use in this part of the contract, we can always roll over, the funds to the new contract if needed.
Do you know how much is being rolled over from the 50,000 that you've asked for? Are those funds
At this
exhausted?
time, no,
Okay,
not sure.
all right. Well, it's a good program. The numbers just seem a little odd. But if you're able to roll it over, do you know what the next grant will be for 2022, starting in July? Is that,
The total amount for the grant,
well, the next one that you're
I
going to be
I
applying
can get
for?
that for you. Yeah, the estimated amount is, so what we're going for, is that what you're asking?
Yes, starting
ar-
July 1st, this one will be completed, even though we might have carryover. I just wondered, are you going to then go out and get the next grant to add to what was not yet spent?
I can find that out for you, Councilwoman.
Okay. Okay. It's a good program, I'm just questioning the numbers.
Sure, no, good questions. Additional questions from the board? Seeing no additional questions, I will make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The item is approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-55, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Family and Children First Council, submitting an amendment to a contract with Case Western Reserve University on behalf of the Begun Center for Violence Prevention Research and Education and the Center of Innovative Practices, Mandel School of Applied Social Science, for evaluation services for various programs for the period January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2021, to extend the time period to December 31st, 2023, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $278,237.
Good morning, Captain Johnson from Family and Children First Council. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. This is for our evaluation contract with Case Western Reserve University. This is to evaluate all of our program areas. They help us to develop tools and to capture outcomes, data from all existing data for our full-time program, our youth advocacy leadership coalition, and to help with our service coordination program, which helps to develop strategic plans for our Family and Children First Council. It also helps with our youth development system in collaboration with our SBSC and for the county overall. They give expertise into. I'm sorry.
Hey, Kathleen, can you try and speak a little
Yes.
more into the microphone? We were hearing you good in the beginning, but then you kind of,
Maybe straight on.
you turned away a bit from it.
Okay, sorry.
Much better, yeah.
Okay, good. Sorry. They help to develop tools to capture outcomes for our existing data for out of school time, youth advocacy and leadership coalition, and for our service coordination team, and any other strategies or new programs for Family and Children First Council. They help to develop any other youth development programs and systems for Family and Children First Council, and as well as for the county. They also give expertise into any new developments for any program areas. They help with our data systems, any new data collection. That's for the county and for FCFC, and any other children and youth and family services throughout the county. This is for 2 years for the amount of $278,237. We did do an RFP in 2013 and 2016, and they were the only university to apply in 2016. We did get permission in the past to do the RFP exemption from the administration. So that's why we are asking to do an RFP exemption again this time. They do have a staff person who is gives expertise on our service coordination cases, which is another reason for us to ask for the RFP exemption.
Okay, thanks, Kathleen. Are there questions from the board on this item?
I have one.
Councilwoman Baker, please.
So thank you for the January 2020 annual report. And in just kind of flipping through, because I just saw it today, conclusions and summary, looks like the outcomes are good. I mean, I haven't really read it, but, and I would suspect that because you're asking for more, you're pleased with the outcomes that are in 2020 and expect the same, if not maybe better in 2021. Is that reasonable?
Yes, yes. Case does an excellent job with evaluating all of our programs. We meet with them every month. They do reports quarterly for each of the programs. They give us expert advice on all of our program areas. They meet with the vendors as well as with our program officers who are assigned to each of the program areas to help problem solve if any arise, if there's any problems with data collection. They just do an outstanding job with all of our programs when it comes to data collection and with reports. They're very open to feedback if we have any in with any of the program data collection. They just provide an outstanding service for our office for several years in all of the years that we've been working with them.
All right, well, thank you. I will certainly read this report that you gave.
You're welcome.
The pandemic gave us certainly some curveballs, I'm sure, in your services. And 2021
Yes.
wasn't much better. So do you anticipate changes in this program because of that, or what are your thoughts on cases, Case Western reserves, reporting? I'm sure you meet with them every month, so I don't think there'll be too many surprises, but what are your thoughts in going into 2022? Do you see the programming changing for the better because of more
Hi,
in-person?
Hi, this is Robin from Family and Children First Council. So yes, there will be some changes in 2022 because there's the introduction of some of the programs having to provide virtual services, which has also changed our ability to administer surveys. And so CASE has been meeting with, for example, Starting Point at out of school time and the Search Institute to look at what those changes are going to mean in 2022. And we actually have a meeting scheduled at the end of the month because we want to make sure they are driven by data, but also driven by the situation and our limitations in terms of what we can do.
Well, good. Well, thank you for your work. I appreciate it. It's a good report to read, and I'll look forward to the 2021 when you get it.
Okay, very good. Additional questions on this item?
Yes, I'm noting that most of the data in the report is from 2017, 2018, and 2019, and the report itself is dated January 2020. Do we have any more recent information?
Yes, we have recent information. We had a data dump in December of 2021. We have not released that information yet because we need to have that meeting at the end of the month. Also, as part of that meeting, we are going to go through the report with Starting Point to make sure that we're using the appropriate language and that we have all of the information that we need because we want to make sure that the years that we've been in COVID are accurate and that we can do a comparison to what were our losses and gains versus what was going on in, let's say, 2018.
And can you give us any anecdotal indication of whether the results from 2020 and 2021 are better, about the same, or not quite as good as what's contained in the report here.
Well, what we found out is that some of our programs did not have the capacity initially to do virtual programming, but we can track how those programs were able to get up to speed. We're also going to look at if we had any program loss as a result of programs' inability to do virtual. And going forward in their contracts, there's now a stipulation that when possible, we want them to do face-to-face, but they have to have a contingency plan for what happens should their programming have to go virtual. So that is a change from what we were doing in the past.
Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Baker, please.
So that was a good catch. I didn't see that. I hadn't really
Yeah.
spent a lot of time on this. So does Case Western Reserve owe you 1 year for 2021 and then owe you, right?
No.
For 2021?
So
given
we
it's-
have it, but we have not released it to the public yet because during that time, the director of Starting Point passed. And we wanted to wait until the new director was in place so that that individual could review the report before we released it to the public.
Okay, and I guess my years are blending here. This ends January 2019, the report that's in front of us. Will they owe you for 2020? They have 1 year that is not expressed in this booklet, in this report.
2020 is when the director passed.
Okay,
And so when we were ready to do the review, the agency did not have a director to give the final go-ahead for us to release the report.
what am I missing here?
So when we release next time,
You're not.
we'll release 2 reports, a 2020, well, actually, we'll have a 2020 and a 2021.
That's what I'm asking, okay.
Yes.
And will that be coming in the next week or so, did you say? How long?
No, that's gonna come hopefully by the end of February.
End of February. So end of February, we will anticipate a report from 2020 and a report from 2021.
Yes.
All right, thank
Okay,
you.
yeah, no, good catch. Any final questions from the board? Seeing no final questions, I will make a motion to approve this item. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The item's approved. Next item.
Next item, BC 2022-56, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Homeless Services, recommending an award on requisition 6973 and enter into a contract with the Bridge Foundation in the amount not to exceed $170,000 for fiscal agent and management services for the Identification Documentation Crisis Collaborative Program for the period September 1st, 2021 through August 31st, 2022.
Good morning, Paul Porter, Health and Human Services on behalf of the Office of Homeless Services. This is a contract for the ID Collaborative Program that the Office of Homeless Services has supported for several years. It was previously a contract where there was a fiscal agent who was involved for invoicing purposes and funds management only, not for any service provision. During calendar year 2021, that fiscal agent expressed the desire to cease operating in that role, especially since they weren't providing any programmatic support to the ID Collaborative. So the Office of Homeless Services worked with my team. We got an RFP out for these services, and there was only one response from the Bridge Foundation, which is a nonprofit that was organized around the group that was already delivering these services. What this group does is specifically targeting the homeless population, so individuals that are in the current continuum of care for the Office of Homeless Services. They help them obtain any documents necessary to procure an identification, thereby making it easier for them to receive a variety of methods of assistance and participate in different services. That could be anything from helping them get a birth certificate and social security card to working with the BMV and local licensure offices to obtain that state ID. As you know, there are a variety of different programs and services you're required to have, supporting documentation and or identification for. There was an advanced question about whether any of these documents can be used during voting. I did send a response to that, and I'm happy to follow up on that if needed, if there are any further questions. I do want to note that the dollar amount is the same as what the dollar amount was previously, so $170,000 per year. The RFP did allow for a couple of additional option years if we decide we want to extend a contract. Historically, we've done 1-year agreements for this service, so we would have an option for a second year and a third year for funding based on how the provider performs and whether we've got funds available to support that. And then the reason for the delay is this contract had significant insurance issues. Because they were a new vendor, the vendor had difficulty completing, or obtaining the required insurance levels. So our law department, went to great lengths to work with this vendor to make sure they could obtain coverage that protects the county from liability, while at the same time, it's coverage that they were eventually able to procure.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Questions from the board? Councilwoman Baker, please.
So in that time of 9/1/2021 till today in January, was there a gap that services weren't able to be delivered?
Thank you, Councilwoman Baker. I'd like to invite Melissa Sirac, the Director of the Office of Homeless Services, to speak a little bit, Melissa, if you could, to services that have been provided since the prior contract ended.
Good morning, everyone. Melissa Sirac with the Office of Homeless Services. No, there was no disruption to service, Councilwoman Baker. From what I understand, the provider worked with the Adams Board to be able to have continuity of service and funding while we work to have the contract in place and get them on board with the county process.
Okay, that's good to know. It seems like when we change vendors, we tend to have glitches. So it might be a good idea to go out there earlier. Take the time to make sure there aren't any glitches, but for what that's worth. Also, thank you for your response on the voting piece too. Do you let those that you are assisting know that these IDs that you're collecting for them or helping them obtain is good for many different purposes? You give them a
Melissa,
list? Yeah.
ask you again if you could address, I know I gave a couple of examples, but what all folks that get these IDs and other required documents might use those for?
We absolutely do have those conversations with them. As you know, it's the key to most everything, right? Birth certificate, getting employment, housing, so on and so forth. We do specific voter outreach. Just to answer your question a little bit more specifically around that time of voting, just to better educate and say you are able to vote with this identification. So those conversations are had in greater detail between the worker and the client.
Good. That's good to know. Thank you for your work.
Additional questions from the board?
Mike, I have to recuse myself on this one. I have a conflict.
Okay, very good. I will make a motion then, since there's no further questions, to approve this item. Is there a second? Seconded by Councilwoman Baker. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we have one recusal. Thank you. Item approved. Next item.
Thank you.
Oh, consent agenda, right?
Moving on to the consent agenda, items BC 2022-57 through 59.
Okay, board members. Not too many items here today, which is a good sign, I guess. If there's any questions, feel free to speak out. Mackler, good. Okay, seeing no questions, I will make a motion to approve today's consent agenda items as listed. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item is approved. Moving on to other business.
We do have other business. The Department of Development will be providing a project update on the grant award to Project Boron LLC for the construction of a cold storage facility on the Opportunity Corridor roadway.
Okay, Paul?
Good morning, Paul Herdig with the Department of Development. As reported last week, the amount of funds offered to the project by Jobs Ohio was not the full $2.5 million required to fill its financing gap. A formal request is being presented to Jobs Ohio for the remaining amount of funds needed. It's scheduled to be presented one day this week. I do not know exactly which day. And anticipating that Jobs Ohio will be able to give a quick response to this request, the developer has negotiated what I've been told is a final extension of its deadline to enter into the construction contract by February 7th.
Okay, Paul, thank you. Questions from the board? Mr. McClure, please.
Paul, thanks for the email update last week. Appreciate that. And thanks for today's update. Has the developer come back to the county and asked for additional dollars, since we know there's the difference between what Jobs Ohio has it committed to and what they need?
I have not been approached with any such request.
Okay, thank you.
Additional questions? Councilman Miller?
Since this remains unresolved, I would just like to have this on the agenda for next week as well.
Paul, if that could be done,
Yes, sir.
thank you. All right, great.
Yes, sir.
Well, then, seeing no additional questions, let's move on to public comment. Any final public comment?
There's no public comment.
There is no more other business, correct? Okay.
Correct.
I'll make a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilman Miller. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone. See you next week.